All right, my court reporter is who, Madison?
Lisa Greenwald, Your Honor.
Thank you. And the interpreter is Ms. Foss?
Ms. Jones.
I didn't hear you.
Vicky Cavazos Jones, Your Honor. Good
Thank
morning.
you. And the clerk, where's my clerk?
Tiffany Sanchez, Your Honor.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. I'm Penny Roberts. I'm a retired senior judge sitting by assignment pursuant to section 74.056 of the Texas Government Code to Kinney County Court of Kinney County, Texas, for the Honorable Judge John Paul Schuster of Kinney County. This is a judicial matter being heard via Zoom pursuant to the Supreme Court's miscellaneous docket number 23-9025, renewed emergency order regarding indigent defense and the border security state of disaster, and being broadcast live over YouTube to comply with the requirements of open courts and the guidelines set by the Office of Court Administration. Nothing about this broadcast changes Texas law. That is to say, it is illegal to record or photograph this proceeding without the consent of the court, and the consent is not given. The only official record of this proceeding will be taken by Vicki Jones here this morning, who is the official court reporter. Please be mindful that electronic hearings can be more taxing on the court reporter, so it is important that we do not speak over each other. If counsel makes a legal objection, whoever is speaking, please stop talking so the court can rule on the objection. We have begun the live stream over YouTube. The interpreter, Vicki Jones, please raise your right hand. And I'm sorry, the court reporter is Lisa Greenwald. I said that improperly a while ago. Official record is taken by Lisa Greenwald. The interpreter is Vicki Jones. So, Ms. Jones, do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully translate all proceedings from English into Spanish and all responses of the defendants from Spanish back into English? So help you God.
I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. If you'll go ahead and give your admonitions and instructions to them.
Thank you. Good morning. For those of you who will be listening to English, when the button is triggered, please select English. Buenos días. Para aquellas personas que necesitan escuchar su caso en español, van a tener que pasar al canal de español. Para hacer eso, en un momento yo les voy a hacer esta señal. Ustedes presionarán en su teléfono la pantalla, buscarán los tres puntitos, tocan los tres puntitos, ahí les sale una lista. Ustedes escogerán algo que diga interpretación o lenguaje. Al tocarlo, les sale otra lista donde usted puede escoger español o inglés. Usted escoge español. Estas instrucciones las pongo en el chat y ahí escucharán español. I am pasting those instructions into the chat, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And we're ready when you are.
All right, thank you. All right. All right, we have pleas this morning for your docket information. Number 3 is going to be a motion to dismiss. It is a companion case to number 4. So number 3 will be a dismissal. Number 6, State of Texas versus Abel May Vasquez was set for a plea. We did not get the paperwork. Who's the attorney for that?
Good morning, Your Honor. Claire Ozark for Mr. Vasquez. I understand this is the plea deadline. However, I believe my client is having connection issues and I was unable to get the paperwork in. I would ask the court to take into account my client's indigence and the fact that he was deported from this country. And I would just ask for the end of the week, Your Honor.
This case was set for jury selection this morning at 9 a.m. When we had that hearing on Thursday, I told everyone, if you want to have a plea, we'll extend it. Instead of doing it on Thursday, we would extend it to this morning. Your client has been given ample opportunity. I appreciate that you are the messenger. You can't bodily go get your client, bring him to court. You can't bodily go get your client, put him on a Zoom. However, your client has had ample opportunity to resolve this case and been aware for weeks, if not months, of the dates that he is supposed to be available. It was a courtesy to allow people to appear this morning via Zoom instead of being in person in Kinney County. And so, no, I'm not going to give your client any more time. His paperwork should have been turned in, as was everyone else's. And so I will call his name. If he is not responding, then they will proceed with a bond forfeiture on him. State of Texas versus Abel May Vasquez. If the interpreter will please call his name in Spanish. All right. We'll have his name.
State
ahead.
would move for a bond forfeiture and a capias, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I'll have his name called at the steps of the courthouse. All right, we go to number 1. State of Texas versus Mario de la Cruz Ramirez. Ms. Starling.
Good morning, Your Honor. The paperwork is all turned in and we're ready for our plea in absentia.
Thank you. Call for hearing. Cause number 11518 CR, State of Texas versus Mario de la Cruz Ramirez. The court calls this case for the purpose of a plea bargain agreement entered into with the state of Texas and the defendant in this case. The attorney for the state is present. The attorney for the defendant is present. The defendant is not present. Counsel for the state, could you please recite the terms of the plea bargain for the court's information?
Yes, Your Honor. In cause number 11518 CR, the state of Texas versus Mario de la Cruz Ramirez, in exchange for a plea of guilty or no contest to a Class A criminal trespass, the state would offer the defendant 9 days in custody, $200 fine, and $290 in court costs.
Is this an accurate recitation of the plea bargain as you understand it, Ms. Starling?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, was this the agreement that was conveyed? Is this the agreement that was conveyed and agreed upon by your client?
It was.
Do you have the legal authority to act for the defendant in this proceeding this morning?
I do.
Prior to the hearing, have you had an opportunity to corroborate the identity of your client as the same person named in the complaint and information?
Yes, I have.
Did you inform your client of their Padilla rights and possible immigration consequences?
I did.
Do you believe your client is mentally competent to stand trial and was mentally competent when he signed the paperwork in connection with the plea?
Yes.
Do you attest that your client did sign, initial, and add his thumbprints to the plea and abstention documents, and that every purported signature, initial, and thumbprint are that of your client?
Yes to everything but the thumbprints. We didn't submit an additional thumbprint. The paperwork says they'll use the booking thumbprint, which is
Okay.
his.
Thank you. Did you review and explain the plea and abstention documents with your client, either in his native language or with the assistance of an interpreter?
With the assistance of an interpreter, yes.
Thank you. Do you believe that your client understood the nature and consequences of his plea and understood everything contained in the written admonishments and entered the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
All right, thank you. To the offense of a Class A criminal trespass, what is the formal plea? Guilty or no contest?
No contest.
Here's a plea of no contest. I'll enter that plea to the charge and the information on his behalf. I find today that you do have the legal authority to enter this plea in open court, and further that there is a valid waiver of jury trial based on the plea of based on the plea of no contest on behalf of Mr. Mario de la Cruz Ramirez. I find that there is enough evidence to find him guilty of the misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass Class A, and I do make a formal finding of guilt in that case. Further, proceeding to sentencing, I sentence him in accordance with the plea bargain agreement to 9 days confinement in the county jail, a $200 fine, and $290 in court costs in accordance with that plea bargain. I further find that he has waived his right to appeal any of the issues that could have been raised as a result of his arrest for this offense. Having been said, is there anything further from either party?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, call for hearing 12108 CR, State of Texas versus Andres Zuniga Gutierrez.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Leighton Hoots from Mr. Zuniga. We're set for a plea in absentia this morning.
All right, thank you. State announced ready in this matter.
Indeed, Your Honor.
Mr. Hoots, ready to proceed also?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
All right, this is a plea for the purpose of an agreement on a plea bargain entered into this with the state and the defendant. The attorneys are present, the defendant is not. Please recite the terms of the plea bargain that the state has offered.
Yes, Your Honor. In cause number 12108 CR, the state of Texas versus Andres Zuniga Gutierrez, in exchange for a plea of guilty or no contest to a Class A criminal trespass, the state would offer the defendant 74 days in custody, a $1,200 fine, and 290 days court costs.
$290 court cost.
Yes, dollars, sorry.
That's fine. I feel your pain. I think I did that earlier. Is that the appropriate and is that your understanding of the plea bargain that was presented to you and to your client, Mr. Hooks?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Do you have legal authority to act for the defendant in this proceeding?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you, prior to this hearing, corroborated the identity of your client as the same person named in the complaint information?
Yes, I have.
Have you informed your client of their Padilla rights and possible immigration consequences?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe, after discussions, that your client is mentally competent to stand trial and was mentally competent when he signed the paperwork in connection with the plea?
Yes, I do.
Do you attest that your client signed and initialed and added his thumbprints to the plea and absentia documents, and that the purported signature and initials and thumbprints are those of the defendant?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you review and explain the plea and abstention documents with your client, either in Spanish, English, or with the assistance of an interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor, with the assistance of an interpreter.
All right. Do you believe that your client understood the nature and consequences of his plea and understood everything contained in those written admonishments and entered the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, I do.
All right, please, to the charge of criminal trespass, Class A misdemeanor, what is the formal plea? Guilty or no contest?
It's a plea of no contest.
All right, hear the plea of no contest. I'll enter that plea to the charge in the information. I find today that you do have the legal authority to enter this plea on his behalf in open court. Further, that there is a valid waiver of jury trial. Based on the plea of no contest on behalf of Mr. Zuniga Gutierrez, I will find him guilty of the misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass, Class A. I do make a formal finding of guilt in that case. Further, proceeding to sentencing, I sentence him in accordance with the plea bargain to 74 days in jail, a $1,200 fine, and court cost of $290. I further find the defendant has waived his right to appeal any of the issues that could have been raised as a result of his arrest for this offense. That should conclude this hearing. If there's anything further from either party.
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, then we are adjourned in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 3, as I said, it will be a motion to dismiss. Call for hearing 14087 CR, State of Texas versus Carlos Adele Guzman.
Good morning, Your Honor. My case sample with NDS, present for Mr. Guzman.
Thank you. State announce ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, defense ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, this is a plea and abstention hearing for the purposes the plea bargain agreement entered into by the state of Texas and the defendant. Let the record reflect that the parties' attorneys are present, the attorneys are present, states here, the defense attorney is present, the defendant is not present. Counsel for the state, could you please recite the terms of the plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. In cause number 14087 CR, State of Texas versus Carlos Adiel Guzman, in exchange for a plea of guilty to the offense of evading arrest, the state of Texas would offer the defendant 6 days in custody, a $200 fine, and no court costs. And in addition, pursuant to the plea bargain in this cause, the state would move to dismiss after the entry of the plea of cause number 14086 CR.
right.
A criminal trespass.
Thank you. So 6 days in jail to a plea or enter a plea of guilty.
Yes, Your Honor.
6 days in jail, $200 fine, no court cost, and after the entry of the plea, dismissal of 14086 CR for a criminal trespass. Is that your understanding, Ms. Sample?
Yes, Your Honor, and he does have the credit for time served on that.
Thank you. And did you relay that to your client and he understood that?
I did, Your Honor.
Right. And do you have the legal authority to act for the defendant in this proceeding?
I do, Your Honor.
Prior to today's hearing, did you have an opportunity to corroborate the identity of your client as the same person named in the complaint and information?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you inform the defendant of their Padilla rights and possible immigration consequences?
Yes, Your Honor. He is a U.S. citizen.
Oh, okay, thank you. Do you
Yes.
believe your client is mentally competent to stand trial and was mentally competent when he signed the paperwork in connection with this plea?
He is and he was, Your Honor.
Do you attest that your client did sign an initial the documents and added his thumbprint and that all signatures and initials and thumbprints are that of the defendant?
Your Honor, yes to the initials and the signature. He mailed the papers directly into the clerk. And so I don't know if the thumbprint is on them. He said he could get a thumbprint on there, but I don't know for sure. Maybe the state could let us know if his thumbprint is there.
Can the clerk tell me, was a thumbprint attached to the abstention documents?
Judge, this is Christina from the county attorney's office, one of the assistants. The thumbprint was not on there, which is okay. We can always add the thumbprint on our end.
Okay, well, if you'll please do that, I would appreciate it.
Yes, Judge.
All right, thank you. Did you review and explain the plea and abstention documents with your client, either in English, Spanish, or through an interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Do you believe that they understood the nature and consequences of their plea, that they understood everything contained in the written admonishments and did enter the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor, he did.
All right. To the plea or to the charge of evading arrest, what is your client's formal plea?
No contest, Your Honor.
I believe it said guilty. in
Oh,
front of the-
guilty. Okay, yes, Your Honor.
Needed to hear it from you. All
Yes,
right.
Your Honor.
I'll enter a plea of guilty. Yeah. I find that you did have the authority to enter the plea in open court, and that there is a valid waiver of jury trial based on the plea of guilty on behalf of Carlos Adiel Guzman. I will find him guilty of the misdemeanor offense of evading arrest. I do make a formal finding of guilt to that offense. I assess punishment at 6 days confinement in the county jail, a $200 fine. Court costs are waived. And after this case is final, then a motion to dismiss an order will be submitted on 14086 CR against the same defendant for the offense of criminal trespass. I find that the defendant has waived his right to appeal any of the issues that could have been raised as a result of his arrest for this offense. And if there's nothing further, then we are adjourned.
Nothing further from the
Thank you.
defense.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, call for hearing 14278 CR. State of Texas versus Osvaldo de la Cruz Lopez. State announced ready
Yes, Your Honor.
and defense announced ready.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we are here for the purpose of a plea bargain agreement entered into with the state of Texas and the defendant in this case. The attorney for the state is present and announces ready. Attorney for the defendant is present, announces ready. The defendant is not present at this time. Counsel for the state, could you please recite the terms of the plea bargain agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. In cause number 14278, the state of Texas versus Osvaldo de la Cruz Lopez, in exchange for a plea of guilty or no contest, state would offer the defendant a 21-day jail sentence, a $700 fine, and $290 in court costs.
Does this accurately reflect the plea bargain as you understand it for the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that the same terms of a plea bargain that you provided to your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have legal authority to act for your client in this proceeding?
I do. Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have an opportunity prior to the hearing to corroborate the identity of your client as being the same person named in the complaint and information?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you inform your client of their Padilla rights and possible immigration consequences?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe that your client is mentally competent to stand trial and was mentally competent when he signed the paperwork in connection with this plea?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
Do you attest that your client signed, initialed, and added his thumbprints to the plea and abstention documents, and that every purported signature, initials, and thumbprints are that of the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you review and explain the plea and abstention documents with your client in either English or Spanish, or with the assistance of an interpreter?
Yes, with an interpreter.
Do you believe that your client understood the nature and consequences of his plea, and that he understood everything contained in the written admonitions and did enter the plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
All right. To the offense of criminal trespass, class A misdemeanor, what is your client's formal plea? Guilty or no contest?
No contest, Your Honor.
I hear the plea of no contest. I'll enter that plea on behalf of the client. I find today that you had the legal authority to enter the plea in open court and that there is a valid waiver of jury trial. Based on the plea of no contest, on behalf of Osvaldo de la Cruz Lopez, I do find him guilty of the misdemeanor offense of criminal trespass, and I do make a formal finding of guilt in this case. Further, I sentence him in accordance with the plea bargain to 21 days confinement in the county jail, a $700 fine, and $290 in court costs. I further find the defendant has waived his right to appeal any of the issues that could have been raised as a result of his arrest for this offense. And at this time, that should resolve everything in this case. Is there anything further?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Then we are adjourned in this manner. All right, if the state or someone will get that dismissal submitted to me on number 3, and I'll get it signed along with the judgments and paperwork on these cases. And I think that should resolve everything on this morning's docket. Is there anything further?
Just like the record of.
Yes, thank you. I need the bailiff to
Like
call the
states
name.
moving. Okay.
On number 6, if the bailiff will please call the name of Abel May Vasquez, and we'll wait for the bailiff to come back. Madison, do we have the bailiff calling the names? Or the name?
Yes, Your Honor, I was trying to get a hold of somebody. They won't be able to send anybody for about 20 minutes.
Okay, well, then
They're
we'll just,
tied up right now.
okay, that's fine. We'll just go into a recess for 20 minutes. Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
all right, we're gonna recess for 20 minutes so we can get a bailiff to call the name. Thank you. Hi. Good morning, everyone. We're back on the record. Madison, it's my understanding that the bailiff called the name at the steps of the courthouse in 14280 CR, State of Texas versus Abel May Vasquez. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, there was no response.
All right. And the state has moved for bond forfeiture based on the fact that there was no response and the defendant is not present. Then if you'll start that process to forfeit that bond. All right. If there's anything further. If there's not anything further, then we are adjourned this morning. Thank you. Madison, if you'll stay on,